At some point in time, my great grandfather packed their packed their entire life inside this trunk. Probably had a little shelf in it at some point too. Packed their entire life in this trunk and left Germany. This as well came recently. This is going to be cool. We are all going to enjoy this, or some of you guys that enjoy this kind of stuff on my channel. I know you're gonna love it. All I know is it's a zither. I don't know a whole lot about zithers. Going to clean it up, restring it, tune it, and we're gonna check it out at some point in the near future. Are we still rolling? Jesus Christ. We're rolling. Apes! My little baby apes. So this is going to be, this is a serious video. It's a serious topic because, I finally have to admit to myself and someone else my white privilege. Some may call it being woke. Others may call it waking up. You woke? I be woke. So my grandfather, short history here, left Germany. My other grandparents left wherever they left. They came to the United States. My father grew up with his father, my grandfather, and lived at Gratiot and Van Dyke in Detroit. That's where my father grew up, on the east side. He didn't have nothing. Nothing but ambition and a promise of the land of opportunity, the United States. My father went through school and grade school, middle school, and then when it came to high school, my father, the public school system wasn't very good, and my father actually had to. You had a choice back then. You could go to a different school. The school high school my father went to was called Wilbur Wright High School. It's all boys school. And the difference is it was a vocational school as well, meaning that you could pick a occupation and do that part-time and as well as go to school. You had to have the grades to get into the school. My father worked his ass off in middle school to just skim by with enough grades to get into Wilbur Wright High School, which at that point he hooked up with a company that some of you may know, some of you guys may think a lot of. Western Electric is where my father hooked up with Western Electric, and probably 1950. Let's see, I think he graduated in 57, so I'm guessing 55, 56, 1955, 54, 55, 56, 55, 56, 57, something like that. And he would work at Western Electric, and then he would go to school. I don't know if it was, you worked 2 weeks and then went to school or how it worked, but he had got hired on at Western Electric. Fixing telephones was his first job. And my father was pretty ambitious, and he told me a story one time about how he saw, kind of like the boss man walking through one day, and everybody shaking his hand, and and all that kind of stuff, and happy to see the boss man. And my dad thought to himself, boy, wouldn't that be cool to be that guy one day. And he became that guy eventually. He worked for Western Electric until they went out of business and became Michigan Bell. The phone companies were split up in the 1980s, AT&T, Bell, and long story short, but my father ended up with Ameritech in the split, and he actually retired from a company called Ameritech. Some of you may know, some of you may remember Ameritech, which was eventually, they were going with television, and eventually they were bought out by WOW, Wide Open West, was bought Ameritech's holdings eventually in early 2000s. I went to school. My mother and father had 5 children, and in the beginning they rented a house on the east side of Detroit, right around the same neighborhood my father grew up in. My father wanted to get out of that neighborhood because it was getting bad. And why I say getting bad, my dad used to talk about when he was growing up, if somebody's car got broken into, that was a big deal. You just didn't have murder and shit that's going on nowadays. I mean, you had it, but it wasn't anything like now. Like I said, if somebody got their car radio stolen, that was big news on the block. And we're talking Detroit. We're talking the east side Detroit. Okay, so I'm not talking about no suburb yet. My mother and father ended up eventually buying a house in Warren, Michigan, which is just north of Detroit. And eventually ended up going west because my father, Western Electric was, the building was in Plymouth, Michigan, and at the time there was nothing in Plymouth or the surrounding areas. Plymouth, Canton, Northville, Livonia was, just firing up in the 1950s. A lot of, before the 50s too, after the World War II, the housing boom and all that. But my father busted his ass with 5 children to get, into the suburbs. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. Why more black people didn't move into these neighborhoods, I don't know. Plymouth Canton today is probably one of the most diverse communities probably in the country. You've got black, white, Asian, all these different kind of races, and everybody just, it's a really cool community. I went to school, just like any other kid getting into high school, wanting to drive, got a job at a car wash, and worked there, worked delivery jobs, delivering flowers, and that to one point I was delivering paint for auto body shops. Doing whatever I could do to make money. As I got into my early 20s and ended up having a child of my own, and then I the wrecking business was kind of in and out during that time, and then eventually I got into the wrecking business and took it serious. And my very first job in the wrecking business, we had a concrete crusher. Basically, put broken chunks of concrete in it. There's a big wheel inside it, crushes that concrete. It comes out a belt that's on like a 45-degree angle, maybe not 45, but an angle. And the crushed concrete comes out. It goes onto this belt, and then it goes up onto a shaker and gets separated into different sizes. And then that was me standing on this belt. And my job was to pull any trash, re-rod, and otherwise out of the concrete. That was my first job in the wrecking business. I ran 90-pound jackhammers, 60-pound jackhammers over my head at times, shoveled whatever I had to do, to make money until I, finally learned a trade in the wrecking business known as a high burner. Didn't start out as a high burner. I started out in a burn yard, just prepping iron for the scrapyard, and then eventually got into setting up buildings and the big time jobs, and eventually into supervision. Had I been black, I guess I just wouldn't have had these opportunities. Guys, this white privilege shit that people talk about, and this supposed wokeness and everything else, get the fuck over it, man. I mean, you're really just looking to start another argument. You really are. Because, anybody that's made a half of a success out of themselves, 99.99% of them had to work their asses off for it. Nothing was given to them. If you're a middle class person, chances are nobody gave you anything. Everything you have, you worked your ass off for. Whether you be black, white, whatever race, Italian, Irish, German, you know, Latinos, Mexicans, South American, wherever the fuck you're from. If you're a middle class person and if you've managed to make, you know, have a roof over your head, chances are you worked your ass off for it. Nothing was given to you. The myth of white privilege is unbelievable. You know, some of my white privilege, I'll tell you, one of the jobs that white privilege got me was a boss one time flat out told me I was the wrong color for the job because it was everybody was laid off at the time. There was only one big strip out going on downtown Detroit at the Book Cadillac building, and this is many, many years ago. But I saw on television that the burners set the building on fire one day, so I went down there the next day and said, hey man, because I knew they fired some burners and needed some more, another burner. And I went down there, and it was a friend of mine who was running the job, black dude. And he said, man, Mikey, I'm going to tell you, man. He goes, I'm just going to tell you the way it is. You're the wrong color for the job. I said, are you serious? Yeah, it was a minority job in the city of Detroit where it had to be black, all black. There was no white people allowed on the job. Now, when I say many years ago, I'm saying many years ago, but I'm talking about 2005, you know. There was not, white people were not allowed on this job because it was a minority job. So I guess my white privilege got me got me more unemployment. And I also want to tell a story that I promised a viewer and quite frankly a friend, I would call him, internet friend that I do speak with from time to time. What I ran into recently as far as being racially attacked, which has never happened in my life, and I've been around some very racist motherfuckers in my lifetime. I just want to check to see, because that's what I do. I don't really fucking pay that much attention to you guys when I'm filming, but I've been around a lot of racist people, a lot of different color racist people, whether they're black, white, Asian. I've been around some Asian people that are pretty fucking racist. I've been around some white people that are pretty fucking racist. The most racist race that I've been around is, if I'm being honest, it's black. Black people are the most racist people I've met so far in my life. If I'm being honest here, I'm not bullshitting you. I'm just being honest. I told you guys a long time ago the story about how, you know, my one of my first burning jobs, it was 40 black guys and me. And, you know, and I was intimidated. But then I came to find out that people are people are people. What I'm getting at is I worked with a lot of black motherfuckers during my career. And a lot of them were good people. And a whole bunch of them were racist. Don't like white people. Or fuck a white person over in a heartbeat. But never in my life have I run across what I run across a couple of months ago. In fact, this was, I released a video with a dog named Milo that I was working with and training. So I was walking close to my house. I was actually walking towards my house. It was at the end of the walk. And it's getting close to home. It was right around the corner. In fact, the dude lives right down the corner. And I'm walking the dogs. And now keep in mind, when I'm training, dogs are always at my right and left side. They're not, I don't let them go anywhere because I'm training. And dog needs to be taught, so that's another conversation. But so dogs on my left and right, and I'm walking, and I just walked past this driveway, and all of a sudden from behind me, this horn blared. Bah! And I'm like, what the fuck? And I turn around, and, you know, all in like a split second, I'm thinking in my head, what is he trying to tell me to get the fuck out of the driveway? Or no, wait a minute, I'm past the driveway, like quite a bit past the driveway. And he starts backing into the driveway that I just walked over. And I'm looking at him like, yo, what the fuck? And he starts rolling down his window. And this is what he says to me. He goes, listen, you white motherfucker. There ain't no fucking privilege here. Now I stop, and now I'm walking back towards the guy. Excuse me, what the fuck is your problem? He backs in the driveway, and he's getting out of the car. There ain't no fucking privilege here, you white motherfucker. It's a black dude. And I said, dude, what the fuck is your problem? He goes, you and your people. I said, you're about a racist bitch, ain't you? You're about a racist motherfucker, ain't you? You know, and he goes, you and your people, you and your... I said, who's my people? I wanted to make sure the neighbors heard it because he was getting loud. So I said, who's my people? He goes, white people. I said, okay, good. He goes, you let your dogs on my lawn, and I don't want your fucking dogs on my lawn. There ain't no fucking privilege here. You know, and I'm like tripping, man. I'm looking at this guy going, man, what the fuck? And I said, you about a racist motherfucker? And he tugs on his hoodie. He's got a Malcolm X hoodie on. Like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? And so I challenged the motherfucker, you know, and I didn't let it go, you know. And then we went into a couple other things. He was telling me how he's trying to. Thank God he said this too. I'm trying to beautify my home, and everybody in this neighborhood knows what fucking his house looks like a shithole, constantly, just totally out of place. Looks like he belongs in Detroit. There's a black dude that lives across the street from him, who's a friend of mine, him and his wife, and this is like totally night and day, because this dude, you know, he worked his ass off to get the fuck out of Detroit, and now he's in a nice neighborhood on a corner lot, and he's just loving life. And so I'm tripping out, and I had to go back to the house to drop off one of the dogs, which I did, and then I was going to do some solo work with Milo. And so I started walking back down, because I told him, number one, my dogs were never on your fucking grass, so what's your problem, man? You know? And so I started walking down the street. Well, the other buddy of mine that lives at the corner, who happens to be a black dude, he just happened to be pulling in. He wasn't home at the time, but his wife heard the conversation, probably called him, I'm guessing. He pulls in and he's like, hey, hold on. And he gets out of his truck and he starts walking toward me. He said, what knucklehead have to say to you? And so I told him about it. And the first thing he says to me, he goes, man, please don't judge all black people based on that asshole. And I said, look, dude, you know me long enough. I don't judge nobody on, you know, I don't judge anybody, period. But I said, that shit was wrong. Well, come to find out, he tells me that dude has done that to some of the older ladies in the neighborhood who walk their dogs. And I was probably the first one, you know, these older women who walk their dogs in the neighborhood, you know, they probably cowered down and just got the fuck out of there. I was probably the first one to challenge him and tell him to go fuck himself. And I guess he's come out and said the same types of things to these older women in the neighborhood. Which, now I'm fucking pissed, okay? Because you didn't piss me off. I can handle myself. But when you're picking on elderly people who walk their dogs through the neighborhood, now I got a fucking problem with you. Now I'm going to make you look like a dick, you racist piece of shit. And I hope he sees this video. And he might. And if he does, just know, motherfucker, I got your fucking number. Because I ain't going to fucking put up with that shit. You can fucking attack me. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can come to my house tonight. I'll invite you over. Come on by. But, dude, you ain't going to fucking bully elderly people in my neighborhood. You ain't going to bully other people in my neighborhood who can't defend themselves. So, you know, I ain't claiming all that, trying to be a badass and whatever else. But that's just the way it is, man. That's just how I feel. But, you know, getting back to that, you know, that was the first time, like I said, yeah, I've been around some racist motherfuckers, but I ain't never been approached like that. And I'm, you know, later on, you know, in hindsight, I'm just thinking to myself, you know, trying to decide for myself, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Is this fucking dude nuts? Or is he just fucking stupid? Because you don't know me, dude, you know? Maybe I am that fucking crazy fucking white dude. Maybe I just turn around and start shooting, you know? You don't know me, so for a person to approach another person that they don't know the way he did, you know, I guess it's just ignorance. And, you know, this guy would probably approach a police officer like that. You know, there was a time where I thought he was getting too close to me and too aggressive, and I let him know, stay the fuck back, motherfucker, because you don't want to get any closer to me. This is the type of guy who would get himself shot by a police officer, and then the next thing you know, it'd be on the evening news. You know, white cop shoots a black dude in a suburb, you know. So, you know, that's another story altogether. You know, y'all need to fucking pay more attention to, you know, what the fuck is going on with these news stories that you watch and listen to. And now that we're on that topic, if you guys don't know already, I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine. He's been a journalist for a long time, and for a journalist for a long time here in Detroit. His name's Charlie LeDuff. It's called the No Bullshit News Hour. It's a podcast, and I invite you guys to tune into it because it's probably the best news broadcast you're going to get, especially if you're from Michigan, if you're from the Detroit area, and you've got questions about, politicians and whatnot. He don't fucking leave no stone unturned. He doesn't go after one party or the other, but he does fucking call these people out for what it is. It don't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you've done some dumb shit, and it's fact, he's a fact guy. He's all about the facts. He doesn't fucking put his version of the story in it and all that, you know what I mean? He does his story strictly based on facts and research. So if you haven't checked it out already, go check out the No Bullshit News Hour on podcast where you get your podcasts. The No Bullshit News Network. Other than that, I may be popping in as a guest on Gerald Ray's podcast, talking about doing a little something together. So that could be fun. If you don't know who Gerald Ray is, he's another guy here on YouTube. He's a pretty neat guy, Gerald, and we've been talking about doing some things together as far as the podcast goes. We'll see what happens. But other than that, I'm finally woke. I've recognized my white privilege, and I hope you do too. Until next time, peace out, motherfuckers.